I'm Scott Hanselman, and it is about 10:30 in the evening here at my house in Portland, Oregon. Thanks for spending some time with me here. As was said, I'm going to talk about building your personal brand. I kind of like to call this talk being a social developer, because in this time of social media, there's so many of us who want to share what we do and what we make. So it's not necessarily all just about branding. It's about being yourself and being yourself online. So I called it a social developer. Now, you might laugh at my slides because I use a silly font here. Whenever I see people online with really cool presentations, sometimes I'm a little bit sad because my presentations are not as pretty as theirs are. So somebody gave me some tips. They said, don't use Comic Sans. You need a really nice font. So there you go. Now I have a nice font. And then they said, now you need to go and get some background images. So you can go to a website like unsplash.com and get a Creative Commons licensed image. My friend Safia suggested that. And then you can apply like an Instagram filter. So look at that. Just in a few changes, I went from being black text on a white background using Comic Sans to having a lovely technical slide deck about your personal brand and about being a social developer. So that's pretty cool. Aren't I awesome? Very happy. It makes me happy. I like using GIFs in my talks as well. So one of the things that's interesting to think about here also is we see people online using terms like being a 10x developer. We hear terms like rockstar developer. We may hear terms like the mastery of development. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that we're all amateurs. I have been a programmer now for a very long time. I would say probably 30 years. And the things that I learned in school, the things that I learned in university are not the things that I use every day. I learned some fundamentals, but I didn't necessarily become an expert. I don't think that I'm a pro. And therefore, I think that we're all amateurs in the technology space, because anything that you learn today will be different tomorrow. What I think makes someone a good developer is learning how to learn. So I would much rather hire someone who's really good at learning stuff than hiring someone who's an expert at a certain technology like JavaScript or Ruby or .NET. So that's something for you to think about. We're all amateurs. There are no professionals, at least not in the software engineering space. There's just people who know how to learn really well. We also like to say fail fast, fail often. I feel like software development and being a good developer and a good developer online who shares what you work on is a lot about attitude. And attitude has gotten me this far. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does silly things like checking code into production on a Friday night and leaving. I do it now still. Just because I've been doing this for a long time doesn't mean that I don't make those kind of mistakes a lot. Learning things like CSS, I thought that it would be really easy. I'll just learn how to do cascading style sheets, and it's going to be a snap, because cascading style sheets is so expressive and simple, right? You tell it what you want, and you get exactly what you're going to get, and it makes you happy. Here's some video of me as a baby learning JavaScript for the very first time. See, we all make mistakes. Nobody really knows what they're doing. And of course, in this case, it's JavaScript, so you don't really even have to learn the bad parts. I think being humble is a really big, important part of being a good social developer, about managing who you are online, about managing your brand. One person that I like to look up to is Tim Berners-Lee. Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web and really is the father of the internet, okay? And one of the things that I think is interesting is so many people want to be a senior developer. They like to say, I'm a senior developer. And they put things at the end of their name like comma, their comma MCSD or comma Cisco or whatever their certifications are. And one of the things that I think is cool about Tim Berners-Lee, who is Sir Tim Berners-Lee, notice his title. What's his title here? It just says web developer. I thought that was pretty awesome. He could have said the web developer. Like, I made it. Imagine putting that on your resume. I'm the web developer. I made the web. But he didn't. He just says web developer. So then who am I to say senior? So this has given me a sense of humility and being somewhat modest. As much as I want to be accomplished, I know that there's so much to learn. And that's a way to present yourself online that I think is valid. And the internet is quite a complicated thing. And Tim Berners-Lee, he didn't know what was going to become of it. You know, when he created HTML and the web and hypertext, he thought that that was going to be an infinite book, and we would just make academic books and move forward in this web. He never could have predicted things like, PDF files. And now we see in 2020 that PDF is the 5th most popular religion on the planet, which is pretty exciting. If you want to convert to PDF, Google will suggest that you can convert to PDF, which is pretty exciting. Now, I've been programming, as I said, for a very long time. I worked on things like TurboVision and C++ in the early 90s. But you have to ask yourself, so what? If you're a social developer and you're presenting yourself, are you trying to present yourself as the expert? What are you trying to say to your audience? I know everything, therefore you should follow me. You should listen to what I have to say. Or are you trying to say I have a lot of experience, and my experience has validity. My experience is why I have value. Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of people out there with 20 years experience. There's a lot of people who are just getting started in technology. Do you have 20 years experience, or do you have the same year's experience 20 times? People need to be really intentional about how they do things. They need to be intentional about how they behave and how they act online. And I think declaring yourself online as an expert is probably not the best way. Instead, you should be thinking about how you can present yourself as a welcoming presence, as someone who is learning, and encourage your audience to come with you in your journey. And I like to present myself in that way. Okay. So that's a way to think about things. Now, this is just a perspective, right? It's just one person's way of thinking about how to present themselves online. But I think that it has value. And I'd like you to think about it as well. I got a lot of people looking at my blog about 10 years ago when I talked about being a phony. Sometimes people don't want to be online. They want to present themselves online because they are concerned that they might be thought of as an imposter. What if someone finds out I don't know what I'm doing? And I think that that can be a little bit scary as well. If you present yourself online as someone who is learning, who is practicing, then you'll be more successful and people will be more likely to read the stuff that you do. I talk about all kinds of things, making video game arcades. I've talked about something like gardening even. I've written a number of applications, mobile applications on different platforms, video games like Baby Smash for my children. These are all different things. I've written a bunch of books, but I'm just still learning. One thing I want to make available to you all as a resource, if you're interested in being a presenter, is a website that I put together called getinvolvedintech.com. This is up at Pluralsight. You can get this for free. We made all of this available for free at getinvolvedintech.com. This is a way for you to learn how to be online. It's a 2-hour documentary film on being a social developer. So I would encourage you to check that out. That will, let me see if I can zoom in here for you. I'll show you the URL. See if that zooms in. We'll make this a little bit bigger. There you go. Getinvolvedintech.com or getinvolved.hanselman.com. Go ahead and check that out. So the other thing that people don't realize when they want to manage their personal brand and become a developer that is visible online is they think it's all about the tech. In fact, I think it's about thinking about your career, about managing your perceptions and who you are. It's also about being productive with your time and making decisions and doing what's called deliberate practice, deciding what you're going to do, not accepting the defaults, and doing it. For example, if you're going to do a fun project, for example, here I've got a Raspberry Pi on my desk. If I'm going to do that project, I should be writing about it while I'm doing it. Maybe I can take notes while I learn, just like I would take notes in class. Those notes can become a blog post. That blog post could become a podcast or a video on YouTube. So doing something once actually allows you to have multiple pieces of content. Now, this doesn't make you a better content creator. This is making you a better learner. The content creation is just a benefit. So that's something to think about. Those are human skills, not technical skills. But when we feel like imposters, it can be a little bit overwhelming. This is a book that I like to recommend that's called The Imposter's Handbook. And I made a tiny URL for you to check out that is here. This is my personal bit.ly. But if you go and Google for The Imposter's Handbook, you can read about this. If you maybe are concerned about presenting yourself online as a developer because you don't have a degree, this is a great book for people who are self-taught. I think sometimes self-taught programmers are the best programmers because they know how to learn and they talk about learning. I love seeing people blog and post and tweet about how they're learning, and they bring us along in that process. So go ahead and take a look at that. Take a look at this idea of being a social developer with this free course that I put up on Pluralsight. Now, when we say get involved in tech, there's a number of ways that we can do that. And this is important. This is a list, but it's not a list of all the things that you have to do. I don't want to recommend that you work very hard and work all week long and then work all night long. This isn't a list of things that you have to do. It's a list of things that you could do if you wanted to. Which of these things would feed your spirit? Blogging, Twitter, GitHub, Stack Overflow. These are all potentially interesting things that you could do. I would encourage you to pick two of them. Pick two that make you happy. I like blogging and I like Twitter. And I also sometimes like to do YouTube and speaking. But I don't spend a lot of time on Stack Overflow, and that's okay. Don't let these things make you feel guilty that you're not doing one of them. This is not a checklist. This is an experience opportunity. Another thing to think about is networks that you may not have. This is one of my friends that I'm very impressed with, and she spends more of her time on LinkedIn instead of on Twitter. I like Twitter. It feeds my spirit. I feel like my network is there. But my friend Grace really enjoys using LinkedIn. And because she's really good at video and LinkedIn now has embedded videos, they're doing a great job presenting her content in a good light. And she's building a really great network. You can see here, she's got almost 4,000 views on this video talking about finding your audience. She found her place. She found her tribe of people that she can hang out with. I would encourage you to go looking for yours as well. It may not be on a social network that you thought of before. Don't feel, again, like you have to do all of these. All right? Now, blogging, I personally think, is very important. Blogging is exciting because it's a way for you to multiply your keystrokes. But a lot of people have excuses about why they can't blog. Well, I don't have enough time. What I'm working on is a secret. Who would want to read what I have to say? And I think that a really good way to think about blogging and allow you to have more time is to think about how many keystrokes you have left in your hand. One way I like to look at it is this. If one of you asks me a question and you say, this is a question I've got, it's a great question, I'll email Scott and maybe he will email me back an answer. Well, I don't know you. Maybe it's not a good opportunity and not a good use of my time. Why would I give you my keystrokes via an email on a one-to-one relationship? But it was still a really good question. So what would I do with that question? What I should do is I'll take your question, which was a gift. Any technical question that someone asks you is a gift. Take that gift, write a blog post. Put your keystrokes not in an email, but instead put them into a blog post and then send a link to the blog post via email. Now, any person who visits your blog has a multiplication effect. If only 10 people visit your blog, that's 10 emails you didn't have to send. That's 10 different times that you got to express yourself and help someone do better in technology. And you didn't do any typing. So we don't do enough time blogging. We put all of our keystrokes into walled gardens, but we don't put them into domains that we own, which I think is really important and really important to think about. I love my podcast. I've got a show called Hansel Minutes, and I enjoy talking to interesting people on my show because a lot of times you'll ask someone, "Hey, can I pick your brain?" That's a really common thing in the United States. Can I pick your brain? Can I take you out for a coffee? Can I borrow you? Can I ask you some tips? That's not really helpful. It's like emailing someone one-on-one. But if you have a podcast, even if only 10 people listen to it, that's 10 coffees that you didn't have to have. More people learn when you make content. And again, thinking about things from the beginning of the talk, you don't need to be an expert. You just need to be someone who wants to learn, which I think is really, really important. I blogged about 3D printing. And I said something very interesting on that when I said, from someone with 16 hours experience. I didn't say 3D printing from an expert in 3D printing. I said 3D printing from someone who spent a little bit of time 3D printing. I want to save my keystrokes. There's a finite number of keystrokes left in my hands. So I want to make sure that those are used and that I'm helping people move forward. So I put those keystrokes into blogs, into mediums that live beyond myself. I like to put things where a permalink is. If I can make a link to it, that link will live forever. Now, I've been blogging for a very, very long time. If I bring my blog over here real quick, and just go to hanselman.com and go to the blog and then hit the date, I've got over 18 years of blog posts. If we look at 2019, this is just scrolling through the months in 2019. Twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 52 weeks, that's 104 blog posts. Do that for 18 years, and you'll end up with this wonderful diary. I'll just scroll. I'm just going to hold down page down just to show you that if you just consistently do something, not every day. I didn't say blog every day. I didn't say it at all. If you can blog once a week, blog once a week, a couple of pages, once a week, that's going to be 50 blog posts. If you did that for 10 years, that would be 500 blog posts.
Hi friends, my name is Sarthak.
Wouldn't that be great?
And I work as VP
you could make 500 blog posts. And then when you're asleep, people will read them. That's how you build your brand, showing up. Now we find ourselves on Twitter a lot. I tweeted about this show that we're talking about right now. And on Twitter, you need to understand that not everyone is going to like what you have to say. So I would encourage you to do two things. Mute words that you don't want to hear about. If there are topics you're not interested in, remember that you're following a human. You're following the whole person. For example, if I'm tweeting about politics, you could mute me. You could lose all of my great technical content, or you could just mute the words. Mute the words about the topics you don't want. And then if someone is cruel, block them. Block them easily and block them often. Don't spend any time worrying about someone who doesn't care about you. If somebody doesn't love you, don't worry about them. GitHub is a great place to spend time and learn about code, but sometimes this contributions graph stresses people out. Maybe your internal contributions are not being presented. Maybe you don't feel that it's green enough. This is mine from 2015. I thought I did a lot of contributions, 300 contributions in a year. That was great, but this doesn't look very green. Well, I had other things to do. I'm not going to let that make me feel bad. Make sure that you're not measuring people and comparing yourself to them. Instead, you want to measure yourself and compare yourself to your previous self. How are you doing last year? And are you doing better this year? The same thing with Stack Overflow. Apparently, I have a lot of reputation over there, and I'm in the top 3%. I've really only been there 4 or 5 times. It turns out that I've only answered 110 things But they were good answers. They were popular answers. It's too bad I didn't put those on my blog, because that would have been 110 blog posts instead of 110 answers on a website that I don't go to. Another great place to spend time is user groups, meetups, nerd dinners. Try to be social with people, hang out with folks virtually right now, or in person when things are better. And remember that the goal here is to be inspired by others. When you spend time with other humans that are going to lift you up and share their knowledge, as I hope you go out and share your knowledge, these people are going to give you energy. You need to use that energy. Use that energy for good. YouTube, speaking, these are all opportunities for you to connect with an audience. Sometimes people are introverts. That's okay. You can unite in your own area, in your own home. Some people enjoy the quarantine because they're home. They're doing things like this wonderful virtual online conference. But the goal here is to stay relevant. And remember that you're probably an expert at something. Everyone is an expert at something. I encourage people to have their own blog because your words are wasted if you put them on a walled garden. Don't give your words to Facebook. Give them to yourself on a website or a blogging platform that you control, because your blog is the engine of community. It's where long form writing happens. Your domain, your content in a place that you control. Being yourself is a better way to phrase marketing and branding. This is a talk on branding yourself, but that's really just a trick to get you to come here and see this talk. Branding yourself doesn't mean making something up or marketing. It means being yourself. So I recommend that people have a consistent and professional username on every site. They use clear avatars. Remember that not everyone wants their face on the internet. There are a lot of people in underrepresented groups that don't want their face on the internet, and that's okay. Just make sure that it's some face and it's consistent. It could be a Simpsons character, as long as I know that, oh, that's the kangaroo that I met on Twitter, and now they're on GitHub. Your username and your avatar should just be identifiable. So I say, oh, it's that nice person who knows a lot of things about code. Remember, one kind persona with the goal being to add value. And if you make a mistake, lean into it. That's okay. Here's an example of a couple of people that I think are really great because they present themselves online in an incredibly professional and cool way. Angie Jones is a great tester and an inventor. She's on the internet all over the place. She has a great website with an identifiable URL and recognizable avatar. So everywhere that you see her online, you know that it's Angie, and Angie becomes a name that we think of when we think of quality. This is a person who is a data scientist named Angela, who's not put her face on her website, which I think is cool. But instead, she does something really innovative. She has quotes from people about how awesome she is. That's a really cool thing. It's almost like those movies where you see the garlands that tell you about how great that movie is. These are people who are saying that Angela is a good person and a genuine pleasure to work with. It's nice to know that people think you're a great worker. Even cooler that you put that on your website and own that so that you feel good about the work that you do. Chris Croyer is really clever. He's a web developer, so he's made his website interactive so he can show you the markdown or the HTML or the code, and you can pick a short, medium, or a long bio. I thought that an interactive online resume was incredibly creative and thoughtful. Safia Abdullah is a really great open source developer, and I really think it's cool that her URL is Safia Rocks. So she's actually telling people and herself that she's awesome. Safia rocks, and she put it in the URL itself. Remember that it's not a flex if it's true. A lot of people feel like maybe they're not the right person to be a mentor, or they can't find a mentor. You're never too old to get good advice. I have people who mentor me. But also, if you're younger, that's cool too, because you're never too young to share your experiences. Just because I'm near 50 doesn't mean I can't have a 20-year-old teach me new things. So remember that mentorship is not about age. So I want you to go out there, and if you think about building a personal brand online, you share your energy. You put out positive works. Don't waste your keystrokes. Don't slap the keyboard if it's not helping somebody. Share your experiences because that's as important as the information that you're sharing. And be kind, and that energy will come back to you. Now, we've got this open up for questions. So if anyone wants to ask a question, I can go back and look at other slides. I'm here live, and we'll chat with anyone who wants to chat with me. So maybe our friends from the conference will come back and say hello. Hello.
Hi, Scott. Thanks a lot for this wonderful presentation. So,
Thank you for the opportunity.
uh, for all the audience, first thing I want you to do is there is a clap button on the website. So if you like this talk, do hit that clap button, and it's available on live.gitcommit.show. If you are watching it somewhere else, YouTube or Twitch or somewhere else, then just go to the live website, and there you will find the option. So coming back to the question answer. So I will ask few questions, and then we will wait for the questions from the audience. So everyone, you can put in your questions in the chat box, and I'll make sure that those questions are asked. And then if you want to come online, few people, we will have them online and come face to face, ask questions to Scott. So I got to learn about many things, and specifically like the limited keywords, limited keystrokes that you have. This line will stick with me. So
You like that?
yeah, absolutely. So one thing you mentioned Tim Berners-Lee, and that reminded me of. Actually, I was born exactly on the same day when Tim Berners-Lee made the first website live. So
Wow.
this has been something like I have grown with the web, as the web has, or the internet we can say, has grown. Similarly, I have grown. And you come from a generation which has seen history before that and after that.
Yeah.
So what do you think that what changes in generations have come or about this personal branding, and how people can how people can use this information to focus on fundamental things which personal branding should be, and not just the tools?
That's a really good question. I think back in the day when I was coming up, people did not think about personal branding. They thought about being themselves, and they went onto the internet in order to be themselves. But then people became influencers, and they became fake versions of themselves, almost as if they are actors in a movie pretending to be someone else. I think people need to come back to the original intent of the internet. If this is a place for everyone, it needs to be a place where we can all be ourselves. So that's why I like to say, I'll give a talk on personal branding. And everyone's like, oh, I want to learn about personal branding. And then I sneak attack and I say, no, your personal brand is to be yourself. That's what the internet was for. Tim Berners-Lee did not make a website and the internet for Instagram influencers. He made it for people. So I think if we just remember that people are behind these things, if you are going to say something mean or cruel on Twitter, it's probably a person that you're reaching out over the internet and you're going to bop them on the head and ruin their day. You should probably hit backspace and not do that.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you for this answer. And one more question I have is what so there is a significant time investment on personal branding, as you have shown that you have been blogging for quite long time, and you have been doing so many other stuff. What is how would you describe this? What is one key motivation for people to invest this much time?
That's a good question. So if you think it's for the audience, then that will not motivate you. Instead, pretend that you're writing it for only yourself. You're writing it for your future self. It's like a diary. Sometimes people don't blog because they think, no one will read my things. Well, but you will. You can Google yourself later and read about what you were working on. I can go back to any day right now on my blog and tell you what I was working on in April of 2010. I could tell you what I was doing in September 11th. So blogging is for yourself first. Additionally, people find the time to eat. They find the time to watch Netflix. Some people say, I was binging on this show on Netflix. I watched 4 hours. What if you watch 3 and then spend 1 hour blogging? I'm not asking for you to quit your job or stay up late or stop, doing this or doing that. I'm just saying, think about how you spend your day. Can you find a half an hour to just write about what you did that day? I didn't even ask for once a day. I asked for twice a week. Twice a week, half an hour or an hour, I think makes a big difference. We invest in things that matter.
Got it. Small steps every day.
Exactly.
Okay.
I see some questions coming in on the site here too. That's great.
Right. I'm looking at it, and we have one person who will ask you face-to-face question. I'll just bring him in the meeting room.
Oh, lovely. That's exciting. We have questions in text and also people going to join us in the meeting. Cool. Hey, it's Parth
Hello,
Krishna.
Scott.
How are you?
Hey, nice speech. I totally loved your speech.
Oh, well, thank you for watching.
I'm really good. So, Scott, I have this question. How do I be consistent? Like, how do I be consistent and confident if I want to start podcast and amidst this huge competition where everything is already there? So, like, how do I make my own personal brand in that situation? Because it kind of scares me.
I think the problem with your question that I would push back on is you said in this big competition. It's not a competition. So I don't want you to feel like it is. A competition is hard. A competition is scary. A competition, you can lose a competition. This is not a contest for 1 million page views. This is for you. If 2 other people who aren't you read your blog, you plus yourself, that's triple the traffic. You've changed people's lives. It's not about becoming the best blogger on the planet. It's becoming the best you on the planet. And if you're not putting that knowledge out now, then where is it going? It's hiding. It's trapped in your head. Put it out there, let it be there, and don't make it a competition against the other blogger. Don't compare yourself to them. Don't have those tapes running in the back of your head saying, I don't really have anything to blog about. What can I even say? You're working on something right now. You've got little projects. You've got ideas. Don't put those ideas down, because the only person who knows the stuff that Parth is working on is you. I don't know what you're working on. I want to hear about it. I want to hear about your thoughts. I don't want you to say, hello, welcome to my blog. I'm an expert. Let me tell you about all my expert things. What I want to hear is about, hey, everybody, look at this. I made a robot out of a Raspberry Pi. This is so cool. I didn't know how to do this, and now I do. And I made this, and I made this, and that's so fun. You can do it too. Do you see the difference? I hope that helps. It's a different way about thinking about things. Thank you so much for coming here in person.
Helps a lot.
Thank you, sir. I hope that your blog is going to be amazing, and you'll tweet me, and I'll look at it when it comes online.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot for the answer. So there are more questions coming in. So I will just like to take this question, which is
let's go through them
related to
real
this.
fast so we don't miss any.
Right. So related to this, VAB Gujral is asking that which tool do you use for podcast?
I use a tool that's called Simplecast, It's a really great tool. It's just simplecast.com, and you can have it'll do the recording, it'll do the uploading. It's very simple. I use Zencaster to have my guests on. There's lots of tools, but you don't even need to use a platform. You can use Audacity, which is an open source recording tool, to do your recording and upload the MP3 to anywhere. But I use Simplecast. It's really, really nice. I think you're muted, sir.
Okay, similar question. What blogging platform?
So I use a tool that's called Das Blog, DAS blog, but I think WordPress is great. Medium is great. The important part is that if the company that you're doing your blogging at goes out of business, you don't lose your blog. So always have a backup. Try to own your own domain, but I think Medium is a great one to start with. So I see Raghu in the chat here is saying, do you recommend a blogging platform? Medium is the easiest one to start with, as long as you have a backup of your content.
Got it. There is another question. How do you measure that your content is making an impact?
That's a great one. I used to think about measuring page views, and I thought, oh, well, more is better. And then I realized it's not about page views, it's about comments. I don't know how many people are watching right now. It could be 10, it could be 1 million. But I do know that Parth Krishna just came on and talked to me, and Raghu asked a question. So I know at least 2 people had a good experience. So don't measure page views, measure interactions. Talk to humans. 2 humans told me this was useful tonight. So that's my impact today.
Interesting. Let me get more
I
questions.
mean, I also use Google Analytics, but I'm just saying it's about the people. It's not about the page views. While you're looking for your other things, I want to also talk about people being afraid. People are going to be mean. People are going to say they don't like your content. Don't waste time with people who don't love you. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Only surround yourself with the positive and block the negative. Don't let them pull you down. You have something to say, and I want to hear about it. Here's one about making content an impact. Number of likes. Yeah, likes is a good thing. Comments, I think, are great. If someone comments, I could have 10,000 views, but if I have 10 great comments, then that's much more important to me than 10,000 views.
Got it. So we have more comments. So someone is saying they got up early for this talk and they're thankful for that.
That's
they're
nice.
liking this. There is someone from Nigeria.
Fantastic. Hello to Nigeria.
And then there is a 45-year-old person as well who's joining this talk.
A young person. The young person is saying, what about a reset button? How do you start from scratch? Perhaps they're asking about starting a new career.
Right.
I think that that's an interesting one. In fact, my wife is 45, and she was had an MBA, a business administration degree, and she ran a nonprofit in finance. And one day she woke up and said, I want to be a nurse. Lots of people would say, you're too old. You can't be a nurse. You're going to go back to school? And instead, we sat down and we said, all right, what are we going to do? I'll watch the children. I'll stay home. I'll watch the children. You'll go to college. She went back to school. She became a nurse. She's a medical surgical nurse now. She's on her second career.
Amazing. So I think we have come to an end of this talk, almost there. Time is up, and do you have anything else to add, last 2-3 lines? And before that, let me just talk to audience. So we will open up this clap button for 30 seconds and it will be heard by everyone. So do hit that if you like this question answer session as well as the talk. And next thing, now, Scott, can you just say last few words for the audience?
Well, I'm all over the internet and you can find me and look at my content, but I would encourage you to check out my podcast, which is at hanselminutes.com. I've got lots of great friendly faces for you to learn from. So check that out and see me on Twitter.
Amazing. Thanks a lot. Scott, for joining us. And now we will disconnect and we will engage with the audience. And next we have this meeting where people who are here, they can join small groups and chat, connect with each other. So everyone, you will find that meet fellow attendees button on the site. You go there and you can meet other people who are attending this. Thanks once again, Scott, for joining this. It's been a wonderful and a learning experience for me.
Thank you for the platform. I appreciate you.
Okay, thank you.